So you're laughing too here.
This
We'll cry together because I can never get married and have children.
This passage prohibited any of Muhammad's widows from ever remarrying. This is troublesome for the fact that people like Aisha were widowed at the age of 18. Aisha was 18 when Muhammad died, and she was widowed without any children. And she lived all the way into her 50s. That means from the age of 18 all the way till she turned into her 50s, Aisha was not allowed to remarry and have children. Now again, is this an act of mercy from someone who is said to be a prophet of mercy, a mercy unto all creatures? What kind of mercy and compassion is this? To leave an 18-year-old, a widow, without children the rest of her life. And she didn't die 5 years later. She lived all the way into her 50s. Now is this a merciful act? Without children the rest of her life.
I don't know how many of you know Jephthah. We didn't learn much about him in Sunday school. In Judges chapter 11, then the Lord's Spirit took control of Jephthah, and Jephthah went through Gilead and Manasseh, raising an army. Finally, he arrived at Mizpah in Gilead, where he promised the Lord, "If you let me defeat the Ammonites and come home safely, I will sacrifice to you whoever comes comes out to meet me first." Then eventually he gets home because he's destroyed all of these armies by the help of God. And when Jephthah returned to his home, this is verse number 34, in Mizpah, the first one to meet him was his daughter. She was playing a tambourine and dancing to celebrate his victory, and she was his only child. "Oh," Jephthah cried. Then he tore his clothes in sorrow and said to his daughter, "I made a sacred promise to the Lord, and I must keep it. Your coming out to meet me has broken my heart." "Father," she said, "you made a sacred promise to the Lord, and he let you defeat the Ammonites. Now you must do what you promised, even if it means I must die. But first, let me spend 2 months wandering in the hill country with my friends. We'll cry together, because I can never get married and have children."
Without children the rest of her life.
We'll cry together, because I can never get married and have children.
Without children the rest of her life.
"Yes, you may have 2 months, Jephthah said. She and some other girls left, and for 2 months they wandered in the hill country, crying because she could never get married and have children. Then she went back to her father. He did what he had promised, and she never got married." What a nice way of saying it, and she never got married. Of course she never got married.
Now is this a merciful act?
Deuteronomy chapter 22, verses number 22 on forward, talks about what should happen in the case of rape. If a girl is attacked and she is not married, she is single, then obviously she doesn't belong to anyone. So the penalty is that the attacker is to pay her father 50 shekels and take her to be his wife, and he's not allowed to divorce her for as long as he lives. So if one were to survey the result, it's quite obvious that the girl gets raped, her father gets the money, the rapist gets the girl, and the girl gets to live with her rapist for the rest of her life. He had better watch out he doesn't get poisoned or something.
Now is this a merciful act?
Short answer, yes. Long answer, yes.
A lot of Christians wrestle with these passages as well. Call them the hard passages, especially in the Old Testament. Think of the psalmist exulting in dashing babies' heads against the rock, the children of his enemies. Think of God telling Saul to put the ban on the Amalekites. That means kill every man, woman, child, and animal. Think of Joshua when he comes into the promised land, basically unleashes a blitzkrieg and then wipes out, puts to death entire populations. How about this passage we came across recently in the liturgy from the book of Exodus, in the story of Israel battling the Amalekites again, and Moses putting his arms up as long as he's praying, the battle goes well. And finally, Yahweh carries the day, and we hear this now. And Joshua mowed down Amalek and all his people with the edge of the sword. And it's followed immediately here in the lectionary by the word of the Lord.
Now, is this a merciful act?